Welcome to the My Healthy Climate Conference, everyone. My name is Cory Connolly. I lead the Office of Climate and Energy for the state of Michigan and the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. It's also our office's kind of lead role in planning this conference. On behalf of EGLE, the state of Michigan, and all of our partners, all the folks that help make this event possible today, I want to say how truly grateful we are to have you all here to help us in this moment to implement the My Healthy Climate Plan. I'm going to share with you a bit of background on how we got here, why we decided to pull this event together, and what we hope to accomplish over the next couple of days before I hand it to other speakers that are going to really wow you, I promise. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge where we are. The lands and waters that we know today as Michigan are the ancestral territories of the Anishinaabe, who have lived in the state of Michigan from before recorded history to present day. Today's conference is taking place on Wawiyatanag, also referred to as Detroit, the ancestral and contemporary homeland of the Three Fires Confederacy. These sovereign lands were granted by the Ojibwe, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Wyandot nations in 1807 through the Treaty of Detroit. Through our climate plan, and again here today, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty and honor all tribes with a connection to the state of Michigan and Detroit. I also want to highlight the importance of environmental justice to ensuring Michigan's climate strategies uplift every portion of the state of Michigan, including individuals and communities that have borne the brunt of environmental pollution and climate impacts, and that we must make sure are intentionally included in the transition ahead. The state of Michigan should be a place where everyone, no matter their zip code, should have the opportunity to thrive, live in a healthy community with access to affordable housing, water, heat, power, and transportation. Unfortunately, this has not always been the case, particularly for Black, Brown, Indigenous, rural communities in Michigan, including many people and communities in the city of Detroit, who have experienced and continue to experience harms from environmental pollution, and who are already starting to experience more frequent power outages, flooding, and other climate impacts. At this conference, we've tried to include environmental justice as a component in the sessions, with dedicated sessions, panel conversations, and we also really hope that you all integrate it into your own conversations over lunch, dinner, happy hours. But we also recognize that that's not enough. And so on June 21st and 22nd, EGLE, led by the Office of Environmental Justice Public Advocate, will be hosting an environmental justice conference here in Detroit as well at the University of Detroit Mercy. You can find more information on the EGLE website. And Regina, who's leading that effort, is right over there. You can see it. I also want to thank so many of the people that are here today. Our Council on Climate Solutions and the Michigan Advisory Council on Environmental Justice, who had a luncheon earlier today that was truly wonderful and made me it made my heart warm, whatever, cheesy. And all of our sponsors, we've got a list of the sponsors, but we couldn't have done this without those folks, and it's largely other departments in state government to just demonstrate how committed the entire state of Michigan and the entirety of the Whitmer administration is to implementing this climate plan. I also really need to especially thank two groups of folks here at EGLE. One is the EGLE Climate Liaisons, who had a workshop this morning and have been a true inspiration for a lot of the work that we've done, and then also helped actually plan this as a part of a steering committee to plan this event. And then also to the Environmental Support Division. That team is the team that's making this all happen from the EGLE side. And is coordinating all the logistics, and I think they've told me 6 times today to stop worrying, and I really appreciate them for that. Also, thank you to the Huntington team for having us. And I also want to thank former EGLE Director Liesl Clark for her leadership in the development of the climate plan and for saying yes and supporting us in doing this conference. And I want to thank Director Eichinger for helping us get it done. The folks in this room know that climate change is real. It is already impacting Michigan, resulting in power outages, widespread floods, and sewer backups. And we've seen erratic temperatures devastate crops, like the cherry industry where I'm from in Leelanau County. And it's not just anecdotal. Compared to 1900 averages, Michigan is almost 3 degrees warmer today and gets 5 more inches of rain per year. But we also know that climate action, the actual process of trying to solve this terrible crisis that we're in, presents opportunities to improve public health by reducing particulate pollution and other pollutants, address environmental injustices in Michigan's most vulnerable communities and preventing new ones, creating good-paying jobs for Michigan families, all Michigan families, and increasing our economic competitiveness and lowering costs. That's why Governor Whitmer committed Michigan to achieving economy-wide carbon neutrality by 2050, and why she joined the U.S. Climate Alliance, aligning Michigan with the commitments made in the Paris Agreement, including reducing emissions between 50% and 52% by 2030, and to do so in a way that benefits all Michiganders. To reach these targets, the governor called for the My Healthy Climate Plan to chart a path to meet our state climate goals in a just and equitable way. The plan is meant as a tool to gather input, concentrate efforts, and bring focus to some of the key steps we need to take between now and 2030 to reach our goals. But most importantly, and that's really what today's about, is a call to action. The plan was released almost a year ago, the result of months of planning, volunteer work from our work groups and the work group co-chairs. Big thank you to the work group co-chairs who did an immense amount of work to help us get to where we are. Input from the Council on Climate Solutions, meetings with the Michigan Advisory Council on Environmental Justice, numerous public listening sessions and tribal consultations, and much more. I was a part of that process as a stakeholder with many of you in the room, and then later in my current role. What came out of that process was the My Healthy Climate Plan, and it's why we're here today. The My Healthy Climate Plan charts a path in 6 key areas: environmental justice, electricity, industry, natural and working lands, buildings, and transportation. I won't get into too much detail because I think plenty of you have heard me talk about it a lot, and hopefully folks are relatively familiar. But we have 6 speakers today that are going to touch on each of those 6 categories. And that's the real bulk of today. And tomorrow we have panel sessions designed to dig into some of the biggest challenges and opportunities to implement the climate plan. You can also find the entire plan online through the Office of Climate and Energy's homepage and a link in the Whova app. And I believe that that link may be on your tables. It may not, but I believe it is. So today's conference is all about implementing the climate plan. I keep telling people that we have 3 big themes for the event. The first one is that to change everything, you need everyone. When we were pulling this together, I kept facetiously telling everyone that this is going to be a pep rally, and I promised them that I wouldn't say that in front of everyone. But the reality is we really do want you all to get inspired, to get fired up, and I think we've put together a lineup of speakers and a set of activities between today's speakers, tonight's reception, tomorrow's panels that I think should do just that. The second, as Governor Whitmer said in her State of the State this year, let's get it done. We want to move toward action and focus on what we can do together. And the third is exactly that. What can we do together? We wanted to create a platform for new relationships, new partnerships, for new ideas, initiatives, for things to launch, for us to really catalyze action and accelerate action around implementing the climate plan. When we were working on the climate plan, I had just started at EGLE. So when I was working on the climate plan in earnest in my current role, I had just started at EGLE. And I remember being overwhelmed and in disbelief, quite honestly, with what we need to do just to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. So after we released the plan, we knew we couldn't do this alone and that we needed everyone, which is the theme that we've got today. And so I started talking about the plan nonstop to so many of the folks in this room. And I was supposed to be inspiring all the folks here to help us implement the climate plan. But it was meeting all the folks in this room that gave me hope that we could actually get it done. I went to the Great Lakes Leadership Academy. I know some of you folks are here. And I thought I was going to talk to them about the climate plan. They'd already printed it out, and they were planning activities for the whole year around it. We started organizing our climate liaisons at EGLE, and it turns out they're all doing incredible work with the tools that we have at the department to tackle climate change and are ready and passionate about doing more. We joined monthly meetings with the Michigan Advisory Council on Environmental Justice, We met with communities in the EGLE's Catalyst Communities program to see that local governments are setting the standard for climate action across the state and are really leading the way. We started meeting with tribal leaders every quarter to discuss shared climate priorities. And we met with clean energy business leaders, philanthropy, federal officials, all the various state departments. All of those folks are in this room right here today, or many of them are represented. After seeing that energy and enthusiasm and sheer number of people fighting for climate change in Michigan, I knew that we had to try to get you all in the same room. That was kind of the moment. Because not only do we need everyone, all of the folks in this room and beyond, to have a chance of meeting these goals, but we need each other in this community as well. That's why we dreamed up the My Healthy Climate Conference. And as we developed the conference, some of the context changed. And you're going to hear this a lot, I think, over the next couple days, but this is truly an unprecedented moment for climate action in Michigan. We have a second term for Governor Whitmer, a proven climate champion. We now, for the first time in my lifetime, for the first time in my lifetime, we have climate champions in the Michigan legislature. We have the Inflation Reduction Act providing more climate funding than at any point in U.S. history, including ensuring that 40% of the benefits go to disadvantaged communities. Yeah, I like the claps. And a poll released just today, or yesterday, Justin will correct me if I'm wrong, by Evergreen Action shows that over 67% of Michigan residents support the My Healthy Climate Plan. And here we are in a room with nearly 600 of the most passionate and engaged climate leaders from across Michigan. I've been telling everyone over the last few weeks that this conference is an inflection point, and I truly, truly believe that it is. I hope that we look back at these 2 days and can say, that's where we launched that campaign, that's where I met my co-founder, my business partner, my first funder. That's where everything changed for Michigan on climate. So again, I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm really excited for the next 2 days. The only thing that might get me more excited is to introduce our MC for the next couple of days, so you guys don't have to continue to hear from me, because you're going to hear from me plenty. But Justin Onwenu is going to be our MC today. Justin, he actually flew back from New York, where he's currently in law school at Columbia, to help us out. He's been a community organizer in Detroit, fighting for clean air, water, and affordable and public health protections for all communities with the Sierra Club. He also serves on the Michigan Advisory Council on Environmental Justice, and from that council as the liaison to the Council on Climate Solutions, which guided a lot of the work for today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Justin, and we can get started.
How's everyone doing? Good. Well, again, I'm so excited to be your MC today. My name is Justin Onwenu. As Cory alluded to, I've had the pleasure of serving on the Michigan Advisory Council on Environmental Justice and working with many of the folks here in this room as an organizer and as an advocate. Today, again, I have the pleasure of serving as your MC, and I want to start off by just saying thank you. There are far too many to thank. Many mentors in the room. My mother is here today. I hope you're not blushing too hard. But also environmental justice warriors like Sylvia Arduino, Rhonda Anderson, Teresa Landrum, government leaders like Andy Levin, Mayor Duggan, Regina Strong, Kara Cook, attorneys like Nick Leonard, Nick Schreck, Jeremy Orr. There are just so many of you who are here today and who've contributed and whose shoulders I stand on, so thank you. I also want to thank you all for being here, for the work that you all have done to get here. I want to thank you for the work that you're going to do after you leave here to move the work forward, because there's so much work that needs to be done. I'll start out just by providing context and shedding light on why being here is so important. I'm here because I know that the work that we're doing in this room will have a dramatic impact on our country, on our world, and our efforts to fight climate change. The work that we do in this city and in this state, again, is going to reverberate throughout this country. And as you all know, fighting climate is not just about stopping bad things from happening. It's also about making sure that we have a future that works for all of us, making sure that we tackle the climate crisis while creating a robust economy, millions of good-paying jobs, and centering the experiences of impacted communities. As a world, as our country looks to tackle some of the biggest challenges, the toughest challenges of our time, they're going to be looking to states like Michigan to figure out what to do and to figure out how to do it. Whether it's transitioning decades and centuries-old energy practices to meet our clean energy needs of the future, whether it's further developing our workforce to be better equipped, or building an economy in a world that's just and equitable for communities on the front lines and communities that have faced disinvestment for far too long. There are a number of challenges that we face that will not be easy to tackle. And again, there are cities all over the world, countries and states all over the world that are going to be looking at states like Michigan. I'll ask you all later on today what Michigan as a state means to you all, but I know that Michigan has so much to add in this fight against climate change. We're a special state. We have 3,000 miles of shoreline. Of course, you all know about the Great Lakes, but we also are a state that is certified, over 30 certified dark sky parks. Michigan is one of the best states to view the beautiful solar system in the country. With agricultural workers and businesses feeding the country, Michigan is the second most agriculturally diverse state in the nation. But there are also a couple of facts that you all should know. Michigan is the birthplace, again, as you all know, of the middle class, the heartbeat of the labor movement. We're a state that's shown the world that you can have a robust economy, you can have an industrial, durable, and successful, vibrant economy while paying workers a fair wage and making sure that people have the right to organize. We're also a state that's the heartbeat of the civil rights movement, a state that Rosa Parks, Sojourner Truth, Malcolm X have called home, and a state where Dr. King debuted his iconic I Have a Dream speech months before the historic March on Washington. And so I say this, and you'll hear me say it day in and day out, we have a lot to offer as a state, and we shouldn't forget it. Our state has a number of assets, a rich history, an unrivaled drive that's gonna make us a leader and make us well-positioned to fight climate change with the plan that you will hear more about today. Each of you all, look to your neighbor, look to your left, look to your right. Each of you all has a unique story, a reason why you're here, motivations for what you want to do after you leave here, and you all should seek that out from your neighbors because as Cory mentioned, to change everything, we need everyone. And so making sure that you know your neighbors, making sure you know why they're here, what motivates them to do this work is super important. So with that, welcome again. Give yourselves a round of applause. This is amazing to see all of you all here today. Again, I'm excited to welcome you all, and I'll get the logistics out of the way just so I don't have to keep repeating myself, but a couple of logistical items that you all should know. Number one, the Hoover app. It is really important. It includes the agenda for the day. It includes bios. It includes opportunities for you all to connect with people that you may see passing but want to connect with after the conference. So make sure that you download that app, that you're utilizing that app as a resource. And again, more information can be found on your table. The second, again, thank you to the sponsors that made this possible. There are so many of you all here today. We have great food, we have great programming, and this would not be possible without the sponsors here today. So the Kresge Foundation, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, EGLE, the Department of Agriculture, and so many other sponsors who made this event possible. Third thing I want to mention, you all have spent a lot of time getting registered, getting aware of your surroundings, but just know the bathroom, exit out that door, take a right, you should be able to find the bathrooms from there. The second thing I want to mention, this is just a really big space. It is a space where you're going to be able to meet, again, as Cory said, your next business partner, legislators, advocates. I mean, this is just a really powerful space to be in, and so I hope that you all will take advantage of it. And making sure that you all take advantage of it means that we need people to respect the space. So if you have a call to take, please make sure that you're taking it outside of the room. If you have an emergency that comes up, we'll still be here. Please just make sure that you're respecting your neighbors and respecting the folks that are here today. With that being said, I want to get us started. We have an exciting keynote to get us started. I'm so excited to introduce him. Mayor Mike Duggan was elected mayor of Detroit on November 5th, 2013, re-elected to a second term in 2017 and again for a third term in 2021. He was born in Detroit, has spent his entire career working in the city to solve some of the most complex problems facing Detroiters, including public safety, blight, access to jobs. Mayor Duggan's first job actually out of college was at a law firm in downtown Detroit, and he rode the bus to work every single day until he could afford his first car. He was later hired to work in the Wayne County Law Department, and before long he was tapped to serve as Wayne County Executive Director under Ed McNamara from 1987 to 2000. As a Wayne County prosecutor from 2001 to 2003, he led efforts to reduce gun crime and address problems of vacant homes across Detroit by seizing 1,000 abandoned homes and selling them to new owners who fixed them up and got them reoccupied. Before running for mayor, Mayor Duggan, again, partnered with workers and unions to lead the Detroit Medical Center out of near bankruptcy and back to profitability in his first year, and this was in 2004. Today, the DMC is undergoing massive construction as a part of a new deal that Mayor Duggan negotiated as CEO. Now, as mayor in his third term, he's focused his efforts on a number of key principles, including making sure that everyone is welcome in the city of Detroit, making sure that we're building a city where jobs and opportunities are close to where people live and to the neighborhoods and available to all Detroiters. And my favorite, ensuring that the Detroit River belongs to everyone. I'll say on that last point, I've had the pleasure of working with Mayor Duggan, former council member Raquel Castaneda-Lopez, a number of environmental justice advocates who are in the room today, to pass the Detroit River Protection Ordinance. And I'm extremely excited about the work that he's committed to on protecting our environment and making sure that we're moving forward as a city on climate. The last thing I'll say is that during his tenure, Mayor Duggan oversaw 14 straight balanced budgets and a fully funded pension system. He led the effort to bring the Detroit Lions back downtown, he co-chaired the construction of Comerica Park and Ford Field, and he negotiated a deal with the Clinton administration that led to the construction of Metro's airport midfield terminal. With that being said, please give a warm welcome and applause to Mayor Mike Duggan. Thank you. It's good to see you. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Justin, and welcome to Detroit. I don't know when I've enjoyed a half hour so much as I did coming in here today. One person after another came up and told me their story, told me their organization, their nonprofit, what they're trying to do. One person after another who believed that they can change the quality of life in the country and the world. And I have to say, I think it's possible. It might seem overwhelming. I think it's possible, and there's no better example of how fast things can change than where you are right now on the Detroit riverfront. What can happen in a generation? If you had been here 20 years ago on the Detroit riverfront, you would have seen cement silos, concrete batching plants, abandoned industrial sites. This riverfront was industry up and down. I grew up in Detroit. I never knew we had a riverfront. And I go to Chicago, and I'd see that beautiful waterfront, and I'd say, the people of Chicago are so lucky they had visionary leaders who preserved that waterfront for the public. They didn't think the private sector ought to have it. And we had leaders here in Mark Wallace and the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy, philanthropic groups, corporate groups, et cetera, who started to take one parcel at a time and convert it from industrial to parkland. And it looked like it was hopeless. And 15 years later, you come out here, if you haven't been here, on a weekend day in the summer, and there are thousands of people enjoying this. And so my first month on the job, one of the first things I did was, on the East Riverfront, there was a plan that had been approved in the last administration for condos on the East Riverfront near Belle Isle called Watermark, overlooking the water. So you had enough money, you could buy this condo and look right down on the water. And the first thing I did was I canceled it. I said, that riverfront is going to be for the people. You want to build condos, you're going to push it back 100 yards. And we're going to create green space from one bridge to another. And what's so interesting is that USA Today has just, for the third year in a row, named the Detroit riverfront the finest river walk in America. But here's the thing. The Ralph Wilson Foundation, about 100 yards west of here, is building the new Ralph Wilson Park. It is going to be the most spectacular park along the river. And then down under the Ambassador Bridge, the city of Detroit is building out Riverside Park, which had a Detroit News warehouse back when they used to store newspapers in the day, knocked it down, reclaimed the water, and there is going to be nothing but beautiful parkland from bridge to bridge. This happened in less than a generation because there were people who looked out at those factories and could see something different. And I heard that from several people who came up and talked to me today. We are extending that now in the city of Detroit because one of the things that we believe deeply here is inequity. And if you come down on the riverfront, there are people, black, brown, and white, young, old, every religion, every size you can imagine. It has been the gathering place. But in the neighborhoods, we still do not have the kind of green open space folks would want. And so we started on something called the Joe Louis Greenway. Who here has heard of the Joe Louis Greenway? Okay, most of you. So here's what we did. We had in this city 25 miles, basically, of abandoned railroad tracks in a big loop through the city. And, of course, what are those abandoned railroad tracks today? Nothing but abandoned tires, garbage, and they abutted neighborhoods where families are raising children. And they looked out at this trash. But we had a different vision, and I'm proud to say this is my administration. We went to the railroads. We bought the right-of-way. We pulled up the tracks. We went through and are now building, and we built the first 5 miles starting down on Warren. And it is the most beautiful parkway you can imagine. And in the first 5 miles that we built, we've pulled out 23,000 tires and 100,000 tons of debris. And now in those neighborhoods, the parents and children are looking out into the backyard, and instead of seeing piles of tires, they're seeing a beautiful greenway. And we are going to do 26 miles all around the city. So neighborhoods that thought of themselves as forgotten can't believe there's a $150 million investment in beauty. This is what you can do in a generation if you can look and see something different than it is. And it's why I wanted to be here to support EGLE and every partner who worked on the My Healthy Climate Plan. Because what you have done is set forth the kind of goals that people can act toward. The idea of going to 60% renewable energy for the state of Michigan by 2030. The idea of reducing greenhouse gases in this state by 52% by 2030. You've got short-term action plans that are the kinds of things that 10 or 15 years from now, you're going to be standing up here telling a story like I am about you can't believe how things work. But it doesn't take that many people who are passionate to change that. And so at this point, I want to talk to you about what we're doing. And I want to start by introducing our new sustainability director here from Washington, D.C., New York City, San Francisco, and now 2 weeks on the job in the city of Detroit, Jack Aiken-Lesotho. Jack, stand up. And our Director of Strategic Initiatives, Tricia Stein, who is working with him on this plan. And here's what we want to do. We believe deeply in this. Some of you might remember, the time I got elected, 60% of the street lights in the city were out. People were living in pitch dark. But there was a lighting authority, and they had started to replace the lights when I got elected. And I went out to see, and they were putting these old incandescent bulbs up in the fixtures. And I said, wait a minute. Why are you putting incandescent bulbs in? And I brought in experts who said to me, LED lights, far more energy efficient, better for the environment, cheaper long term. So why are you guys putting in incandescent bulbs? Well, I said, well, the incandescent bulbs are cheaper. I said, well, they may be cheaper to put them in, but they're far more costly in terms of long-term bills and to the environment. Stop. We're going to go to 100% LED lights. And in 2016, the city of Detroit became the first city in America with a 100% LED streetlight system. That's the kind of leadership that we intended to do. And I'm really excited to hear the conversation I know you're following. It looks like the Biden administration is going to speed up the requirement to convert to electric vehicles. And Detroit is going to be at the forefront of this. Yeah, you can clap. The president is on the right track with these electric vehicles, right? But GM's first all-electric plant is Factory Zero here in the city of Detroit, where they're making electric trucks and SUVs and the autonomous cruise vehicles right now down the street. Over in the train station, which Detroit City Council at one point had voted to demolish, that beautiful historic building, we decided we were going to save it because history is part of what we should be valuing. But Ford Motor Company is moving in 5,000 people who are designing the electric and autonomous vehicles of the future. They wanted to create a center where the people who had the energy to design the future would be in a different place than their normal corporate headquarters. So they're going to be moving in this September. But I didn't want to just be the guy who got buildings for these people. I want us to lead as the city of Detroit in encouraging these electric vehicles. And so right next to the train station on 14th Street, we are building the first self-charging public street in America. We're putting e-coils with inductive magnetic charging underneath the road. It works like the wireless charging on your phone, so that cars that park and drive on 14th Street will actually charge while they're parked on the street. And all of the startups that will be coming into the book building next to the train station, lots of small companies, because Ford's created an environment that if you want to change the world, you've got some idea on mobility, you can come rent space right next door to them and be part of this. They'll be able to invent their latest charging technology and try it out on the street right next door to their building. That's the kind of impact that we want to have in the city. As far as electric vehicles, we have to lead by example. I was really pleased last month. We just replaced the entire parking enforcement operation. 48 vehicles bought at once. We bought 48 electric Chevy Bolts, 48 charging stations. We've gone 100% electric. And every single vehicle we buy in our fleet right now, we evaluate as to whether there's an electric vehicle that we can apply. We've got 250 electric vehicles, and over the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to get all 3,000 of our vehicles to be electric vehicles. That's the goal that we're having. And for those of you who are interested in one other challenge, Jack is going to be leading a new initiative. And we're looking for partners, because one of the things that we did when we went to do the Joe Louis Greenway, we didn't have the government come in and knock on the neighbor's door and say, we're building this in your backyard. We do this with community engagement. We had intense community meetings. And when we say community engagement, we mean it. We took the neighbors who live near there, flew them down to Atlanta to see the Atlanta Beltline, see the best ideas from around the country. The neighbors helped us design this. And when it was open, there's a whole different feeling in your community if you were a part of designing what's there. But now here's the next thing that we're looking to do. We took a 10-acre abandoned area at 96 in Greenfield and call it O'Shea Park, and we put in 10 acres of solar panels. And people said that wouldn't work. We did this about 5 years ago. If you're heading out 96 at the end of this, as you get by Greenfield, look up to your left. You can actually see the solar panels on the side of the road, but it was area adjacent to a freeway that people didn't think could be put to good use. And with the participation of the neighbors, we put a park next door to it. And it's amazing how compatible a park is to a nice row of solar panels. They said it'll be vandalized, it'll be destroyed. It's been 6 years, and it hasn't been touched. The neighbors have valued it. The community's valued it. And I tried to convince DTE to do more of these. Even had the Energy Secretary, Ernie Muniz, came to town and tried to pitch him, said, you can do a whole bunch of 10-acre parcels. And they said the numbers don't work now. Well, today, you all know this. Solar power is getting far more efficient. And so here's our question, and this is Jack's first charge. Can we get all of City of Detroit operations on renewable energy within 5 years? So that's Jack's job. All right, you're going to do it, right? And so here's what we're thinking. We need about 250 acres of solar panel. Now, the city of Detroit has 140 square miles. We need 250 acres, about a half of a square mile. We got 140 square miles, and we got a lot of vacant land. We got plenty of vacant land next to City Airport. Could we put solar panels there and power City Airport from the power next door? And so we're looking around the country, and look at Chicago again. Chicago, did you follow what they did? Fascinating thing. They've decided in 5 years they're going to have 100% renewable power to power all of their operations. And they're building a solar farm near Springfield, 3.5 hours away from Chicago, and are going to buy the power. That would be like us building a farm up in Gaylord, Michigan, and say we're doing it. I'm not saying that doesn't have value, but that's not my idea of sustainability. My idea would be, can we use our own land and put the solar panels here and power the city? Can we take the lands along railroad tracks and freeways that don't have a lot of use? People think of it. Can we take areas of the city where people are calling continually because they're so deserted that they're continually getting illegal dumping? Could we create solar panel parks here in the city of Detroit and be the first major city that powers all of its facilities from renewables within the city of Detroit? That's what Jack came here to do. He promised when he took the job he's going to get it done. But there's going to be an intense community engagement effort, because we're not going into neighborhoods where people don't want us. We're going into neighborhoods where people are saying, we believe in this. We want this here. And for those of you who have some passion for this, have some interest, who have some expertise in it, catch Jack or Tricia before the end of the conference, because we want the broadest possible engagement, because we want to do this right. We want other people in this country saying, in the city of Detroit, they don't talk about climate action, they actually do it. I know that's what all of you believe, and I'm just really pleased to be here to say welcome to Detroit, welcome to this conference.